Now it's time to give our game that final commercial ready touch. Right now we've completed our game, and the only thing that's left now is to add what's known as post-processing. Post-processing is the process of applying full screen filters and effects to a camera's image buffer before it is displayed on our screen. Alright, and basically what it does is it drastically improves the visuals in very minimal amount of time. So, using post-processing. To use post-processing in your projects, we can import it directly into Unity from the asset store by downloading the post-processing stack. So, in your Unity here, go to Window, Asset Store, and this will launch the asset store directly in Unity. The asset store is an amazing tool, and the fact that it's integrated directly inside of Unity makes it a breeze to work with. Basically, the asset store has everything from scripts to services to shaders to animations, models. You can buy complete art packs to use in your games. So what we're interested in looking for in here is post-processing. So go ahead and type in the search post-processing, and we're looking for the post-processing stack by Unity Technologies, which is right here. So post-processing stack. The new Unity post-processing stack is an Uber effect that combines a complete set of image effects. Go ahead and download that. Hit accept for the licensing terms. And while that's downloading, go ahead and allow it to import. It's going to go ahead and say preparing package. It's going to say import. You're going to see post-processing folder. Go ahead, import. And it will automatically put all these files into your project view. So here, just go ahead and let that import. And with post-processing effects, the best way to really get experience using post-processing and to figure out how to use all the given processing effects is to check out the Unity manual on the documentation for post-processing. The post-processing overview will give you a clear view of everything that you can do. For example, we're going to have bloom effects, depth of field, chromatic aberration, we're going to have color grading, and just all sorts of awesome things that can really help bring our game to life. So now that that's imported, you'll see here in our project view that we have a post-processing folder. Now what I want to do is, in order to use post-processing, we need to create a profile for it. So in your post-processing here, you'll see, let's go ahead and inside our Galaxy Shooter here, let's go ahead and create a new folder. And let's call it Post Effects. Okay, Post Effects. Go ahead and right-click Post Effects, create, and we're going to go ahead and create a profile that is going to use the post-processing stack. So on here, we're looking for post-processing profile. This profile is what's going to allow us to apply image effects. So let's name this space_profile. Okay, so here's our space profile, and you can see here that we can manipulate the image effects on this. So for instance, we have fog, we have anti-aliasing, we have ambient occlusion, screen space, depth of field, motion blur, and tons of others. So using these, we're going to bring our game drastically to a commercial ready state. So let's go ahead and click on your main camera, and we now need to apply this post-processing profile. In order to do that, there is a component called post-processing behavior. By adding this component, it allows us to drop in a space profile or post-processing profile, and the camera for the main camera will automatically be altered. Now right now nothing has changed, and that's because we haven't actually modified our space profile. So let's go ahead and start doing that. The first one we're going to look at is going to be motion blur. So to really get a feel for how this is going to affect our game, what I want to do is I want to hide our title screen momentarily, and I want to actually drag in our player and our ships and everything that we're going to be using so we could see how it's actually going to look. So for instance, if we look at our prefabs here, I'm going to drag in an enemy. I'm going to go ahead and position him over here. I want to drag in a player over here. And let's go ahead and add a power-up in here. So here we have, and as well as your laser. Go ahead and drag your laser in there so we can see how that's going to look. Because all of these images are about to get insanely upgraded here. So now, let's see, I'm missing one more thing. What else did I want to add in here? I got my player, my enemy, and let's go ahead and do a let's go ahead, we can do a power up. So go ahead and throw one of our power ups in there. Okay. So now let's go ahead and click back on the main camera. Go to your post-processing behavior, click on your profile, which is the space profile in your project view, and let's go ahead and start bringing this game to a commercial ready state. The first one I want to look at is bloom. So bloom, the effect on this basically refers to the default effects found within the post-processing stack. Bloom is an effect used to reproduce an imaging artifact of real-world cameras. The effect produces fringes of light extending from the borders of bright areas in an image, contributing to the illusion of an extremely bright light, overwhelming the camera eye capture or scene. So to really get an understanding of what bloom is, and for all of these, is really just to mess around with it. Go ahead and start by just turning on bloom. You're not going to notice any immediate changes because we haven't actually adjusted the values of our bloom yet. However, go ahead and change the intensity from 0.5 to like 5. And you'll start to notice that our particles, like our thrusters and our background, get more ambient light. Like they're getting much brighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that to about 5.4. I'm happy with that. Maybe 5.41. Next, let's go ahead and set the threshold. You can go ahead and mess around with that. And this is going to create that actual boast of glare. So you can see here we can really like do some crazy things with this. I'm going to go ahead and set the threshold here to just 1. Okay. And next, looking at, let's see, we have our soft knee and radius. For the soft knee, you can probably keep that at 0.5 and 4. And if you want to change any of these, you're more than welcome to. Like if you want more of a bright color contrast, you're more than welcome to. I'm just going to go ahead and keep this at 1, and I'm happy with this. Okay. So the next one we want to look at, let's go to color grading. Color grading is a really cool one, and my favorite thing about color grading is it has a temperature value. And go ahead and change this tone mapper to none. And what's awesome about color grading is this temperature value. So like the lower the temperature, the more blue your scene gets. The warmer the temperature, the more red. So you can really do some awesome, cool effects with color grading. So what I'm going to do here is my post exposure. I'm going to set this back to 0. My post exposure, go ahead and like drag that up to like 1.4. And you'll see here that it's really brightening the colors. So I'm going to make that about 1.42. And then for the temperature, go ahead and adjust that to whatever you'd like. I'm going to go for a much cooler temperature. So maybe like, maybe too cool. What does like -5 look like? Not cool enough. I'm going to go ahead and put it down to about -22. I'm happy with that. Let's see here. And then for our hue shift, go ahead and this is kind of modifying the hue color values. You can see here it kind of gives you that really alien galactic look. I'm going to go ahead and set this to about -1, I think. So I'm happy with that. And the next thing is saturation. We can go ahead and set our saturation. You can move that up maybe a bit, see what that does. Just mess around with these toggles. So here we kind of have this gray and black scale. But I'm going to go ahead and move it up maybe to about 1.13. And then we have our contrast, color contrast. So here, you can see here, no color contrast. And then we have our color contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to about 75%, 0.75. I think that looks pretty good. Then we have our channel mixer, and I don't know if we're really going to touch any of this. If you wanted to, though, you can multiply the red values, the green values, and the blue values. For the most part, though, I'm going to go ahead and just keep this at 1. Yeah, I'll keep it at 1. And then you also have these trackballs. So if you're familiar with any design tools, or if you've ever done any VFX, or you've done commercial animations before, a lot of this might be very familiar to you. But like I said, guys, the best way to get familiar with post-processing effects is to just mess around with all of the toggles and check out the Unity manual for post-processing, where you'll find detailed information about each of these settings. So our game is actually looking really good right now. I think the last thing I want to do is there's a vignette setting. So let's click on the vignette setting, scroll down, let's go and collapse this one. And here we have a vignette, or I believe it's vignette, maybe vignette. But what I want to do with this, guys, is go ahead and set it to classic, the color, make sure it's black, and we're going to change the intensity of it. So this kind of just gives us like a it kind of forces you to focus in on something. So like in photography, vignetting, or whatever this word is the term used for the darkening and or like desaturating towards the edges of an image compared to the center. So this is usually caused by thick or stacked filters. So what I want to do here is I want to set this to about 37. Let's see how that looks. 0.37. And we'll go ahead and set everything else. Everything else can actually stay how it is. All right. And let's see here. And I think that's really much it for what I'd like to do. If you want, you're more than welcome to mess around with some other things though. For instance, there's ambient occlusion, which creates depth, keeps everything from looking flat. We're going to use that in our 3D game. You have things like reflection probe, creating an image of what can be reflected, which we'll also get into with the 3D game. And then we have things like depth of field, how far you want to be able to focus. You have color grading. It's a way to blend your images together. You have chromatic aberrations, which is basically like a flaw in a camera lens. And then just like what we just used here, we have vignette, which adds a shade and forces the viewer to look straight ahead. So and you can see that we created that sort of edge, right? We're focusing in on our game here. Alrighty. So that pretty much wraps up our demonstration of post-processing. Post-processing effects is used to give your games that commercial-ready look and feel in a matter of minutes. So let's go ahead, save our scene. Let's go ahead and remove our objects that we added in here. So enemy player and laser and this prefab. Triple shot power up. Go ahead and save your scene. Let's go ahead and run our game one last time. And real quickly, I want to re-enable the title screen. Let's go ahead and run this. And we'll hit space. And here you go. As you can see, we have a much cooler looking game. And look at the, wow, look at that explosion. It's almost like a blue light. I love it. As you can see too, almost every particle it's beyond incredible. I hope you guys really enjoy what you came up with. I can't wait to see what you guys have come up with. And last but not least, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to collab, and let's go ahead and commit our final changes. So here we've implemented audio and animated SFX, as well as post-processing effects. Publish now, save your scene, and I'll see you guys in our final section.